Imagine hiring a chief executive officer who has like literally zero experience in your industry.
That sounds like a total disaster.
Right. I mean, they know absolutely nothing about your core product. And they're inheriting a staff that is deeply skeptical, completely burnt out, and just actively resists their presence.
Yeah, that's a tough room to walk into.
Oh, and to top it all off, the board of directors is quietly hoping this new CEO fails.
Wow.
Yeah. If you map that out on a standard business spreadsheet, the math says you go bankrupt in, what, a month?
Oh, absolutely. Or less.
But what if that exact scenario is actually the blueprint for future-proofing your company? Welcome to your custom-tailored deep dive. Today, we're extracting the core insights from this brilliant piece of analysis by Stella Pop.
They're a really great business strategy and consulting firm, for those who don't know.
Exactly. And we're using their notes to figure out how organizations can break out of stagnant growth. To do it, they use a completely unexpected case study. We are looking at what the television character Ted Lasso teaches real-world leaders about culture, team building, and, just outperforming the competition.
It is such a fascinating angle.
It really is. The mission of this deep dive is to isolate the true differentiator between companies that thrive and those that just stall out. So, okay, let's unpack this. Because the core premise of the Stella Pop piece completely flips how most leaders view business growth.
It really does.
There's this overwhelming tendency to treat a company like a giant, very neat math equation on a whiteboard. You put the inputs in on the left side, and success just supposedly pops out on the right.
Yeah, and I think, it is an incredibly comforting way to view an organization.
Right, because it's clean.
Exactly. We all crave that industrial age predictability. If you want growth, well, you just add more marketing leads. If you need more revenue, you hire 5 more sales reps.
Just plug it into the formula.
Right. If you need to scale operations, you buy more software subscriptions and schedule, more alignment meetings. The entire philosophy assumes that scaling a business is purely additive and completely binary.
The problem is that when you step off that whiteboard and into the real world, that beautiful equation completely breaks down.
It shatters.
Yeah. You can look at 2 companies operating in the exact same industry. They possess the exact same financial resources, they utilize the same software platforms, employ the same number of people, and target the identical market.
On paper, they are twins.
Exactly. But one consistently crushes its quarterly goals, while the other is just constantly putting out fires and losing staff. The math tells you they should be producing identical outputs.
And the fact that they don't produce identical outputs points to a missing variable, which brings us to the core of Stella Pop's analysis.
The culture piece.
Right. The true differentiator isn't the software or the leads or the capital. The missing variable is the environment itself, the culture. And Ted Lasso serves as this perfect paradoxical lens to examine this through.
Because he shouldn't succeed.
Exactly. Going back to our spreadsheet analogy, he is the ultimate bad hire on paper. He's an American football coach stepping into English soccer.
A sport he does not understand at all.
At all. He lacks every single technical qualification for the role.
He is literally learning the rules of the game while standing on the sidelines during professional matches.
Yeah, asking what offsides means. And yet, he completely transforms the organization. The text emphasizes that he doesn't achieve this by suddenly going home, studying a textbook, and developing superior tactical knowledge of soccer.
Right.
He succeeds because he systematically alters the ecosystem that his team is operating within. He builds a culture where the people around him simply perform at a higher level because of the psychological, emotional environment he has constructed.
So if shifting the environment is the secret to outperforming that rigid business math, the very first step has to be examining who actually populates that environment.
The hiring process.
Yes. The source goes right after the standard corporate hiring process. Usually hiring is just, an exercise in matching a list of keywords on a resume to a list of requirements on a job description.
Right. It's a sorting algorithm.
It is entirely focused on technical proficiency.
But the authors of the piece argue for a fundamental inversion of that process. They say you need to hire for character and train for skill.
That's a great line.
Yeah, they use a very specific phrase that stands out, character compounds. Technical skills are obviously necessary, but in a rapidly changing market, skills can become obsolete.
So quickly, too.
Exactly. But character traits like emotional intelligence, genuine curiosity, adaptability, and a collaborative mindset, those act like compound interest over time.
Okay, let's break down the actual mechanism of that. How does a good attitude literally gather interest over time in a corporate setting?
Well, think about the causal chain of emotional intelligence in, say, a standard team meeting. When you hire someone with high emotional intelligence, they naturally create psychological safety around them.
People feel comfortable.
Right, because that safety exists, the quieter, perhaps more introverted team members feel comfortable sharing riskier, more innovative ideas without the fear of being mocked.
Ah, I see.
And those innovative ideas lead to better product features, which leads to higher customer retention. The initial act of bringing a high-character individual into the room pays dividends across the entire team's output.
It spirals upward.
Exactly. They don't just do their own job well. They act as a catalyst for everyone else's performance.
I hear that, but I have to push back on behalf of anyone listening who is currently running a business with, severe deadline pressure and aggressive revenue targets.
It's the real-world pressure.
Yeah. Isn't it inherently dangerous to prioritize a nice person who needs 6 months of training over a grumpy expert who already knows the job perfectly? Are we saying a good attitude literally gathers interest over time while a bad one bankrupts the culture?
What's fascinating here is how the source directly addresses that specific tension through the archetype of the Roy Kent character from the show.
Oh, the grumpy veteran.
Yes. Every single organization, without exception, employs a Roy Kent. This is your deeply experienced veteran. They possess elite technical skills, but they can be incredibly blunt. They often actively resist new initiatives, and crucially, they carry an outsized amount of cultural influence within the company.
Far beyond what their actual job title dictates.
Exactly.
If you are listening to this right now, you are probably doing the math in your head on how much your own personal Roy Kent is costing you in team morale versus how much they are making you in revenue.
Oh, absolutely.
And the instinct is usually to just get rid of them to protect the culture.
Right. Well, the traditional management approach often views these difficult, highly influential personalities as friction in the machine. Leaders either try to overpower them with authority or they just eliminate them entirely.
Just fire them.
Right. But the Stella Pop piece explicitly warns against doing that. Great cultures are not built by simply firing everyone who presents a behavioral challenge.
Because you lose entirely too much institutional knowledge.
No.
Wait, but in reality, trying to engage a hostile veteran employee sounds exhausting. How do you actually earn the trust of someone who is actively resisting you without just, yielding to their bad behavior, letting them run the office, and compromising your own authority as a leader?
Yeah, it's a tightrope. It requires a masterclass in boundary setting and finding their underlying motivation. The leadership lesson here is not about capitulation. You don't let the grumpy expert abuse the team.
Right.
Instead, you change how you interact with them. You stop giving them directives and start asking for their input on the systems they are so critical of. The source highlights that these veterans are usually grumpy because they care deeply about the work.
They're frustrated by inefficiencies.
Exactly. If a leader can tap into that unstated desire for the team to succeed and show that they value the veterans' expertise, the whole dynamic shifts. Earning their trust doesn't just neutralize a negative, it turns them into a massive positive multiplier.
Because everyone else is watching.
Yes. When the most difficult, skeptical person in the room publicly buys into your vision, the rest of the team instantly follows.
So the goal isn't choosing between a nice novice and the grumpy expert. The goal is doing the difficult, active work of coaching that grumpy expert until their massive influence is working for the company culture rather than against it.
Exactly. You are actively managing the ecosystem, which takes much more effort than just handing out a list of tasks.
That sets up the next critical piece of the puzzle perfectly. Because if the goal is to engage your difficult veterans and allow character to compound, that immediately shifts the burden onto how a leader communicates day to day.
It's all about the daily practice.
Right. You can't just put up a motivational poster and hope for the best. You need a system. And the source points to one of the most recognizable symbols from the Ted Lasso case study, that slightly crooked yellow "Believe" sign taped above the office door.
Yeah, it is the defining visual of the entire methodology.
But the Stella Pop analysis makes a vital distinction that I think a lot of casual viewers completely miss. People look at that sign and assume it represents blind, sunny optimism. Just smile, ignore the problems, and everything will magically work out.
Toxic positivity.
Exactly. But the text argues it actually represents something much heavier. It represents expectation.
And this is a profound shift in perspective. Optimism is passive, right?
Yeah.
It is just hoping external circumstances break your way.
Right.
Expectation is an active environmental force. The psychological principle the source relies on is that people generally perform at the exact level their environment expects from them.
That is so true.
If you expect people to be untrustworthy, you micromanage them, which makes them resentful and, less likely to take initiative. But if you expect them to be brilliant and capable, you give them autonomy, and they usually rise to meet that standard.
Leaders are the architects who set and enforce that expectation every single day.
Every single day.
And it isn't just about giving big, sweeping, cinematic speeches at the quarterly retreat. The text is very granular about this. Culture is built or destroyed in micro-interactions. The source clearly states that culture is not what is written in your neatly formatted employee handbook, and it's not the core values painted on the lobby wall.
Those are just words.
Right. Culture is the lived experience of your employees every single Monday morning.
Let's ground that in a concrete office scenario. If your employee handbook explicitly states we celebrate innovation and risk-taking, but on Monday morning, a marketing manager gets publicly reprimanded in a Slack channel because their experimental ad campaign failed to yield immediate ROI.
Then your culture is not innovation.
Your actual culture is fear. The lived experience dictates the behavior.
Which dictates a fundamental choice for anyone in a leadership position. Are you a manager or are you a coach? Because the source draws a massive, heavy line between those two titles. Managers supervise work. Coaches develop people. Here's where it gets really interesting for me. If we think about this difference in terms of driving a car, it sounds like a manager is basically GPS dashboard.
Oh, I love that.
Right. They're just barking out turn-by-turn directions. Turn left here, execute this task, submit the quarterly report by Friday, recalculating. It's entirely directive, and it requires zero critical thinking from the driver.
You're just following orders.
But a coach is more like a driving instructor sitting in the passenger seat. They are not holding the steering wheel. Instead of telling you to turn, they are asking, what data points are you seeing on the road ahead? Why did you drift into that lane during the last project?
Building awareness.
Yeah, they're asking questions designed to build your internal confidence so that eventually you can navigate the road entirely on your own.
That analogy captures the methodology perfectly. The text points out that the character of Ted spends shockingly little time telling his team exactly what physical movements to make on the field.
Almost never.
Right. His primary leadership functions are asking probing questions, manufacturing confidence, and systematically removing the fear of failure from the environment.
But what happens when the GPS breaks down entirely?
What do you mean?
Like what happens when a business hits a massive crisis, say a sudden market crash or a supply chain failure, and there are simply no clear step-by-step directions for a leader to give?
Yeah. This raises an important question, and it cuts straight to the concept of emotional contagion. In moments of crisis, employees are constantly reading leadership behavior to figure out how they should feel.
Looking for cues.
Exactly. Confidence is highly contagious within an organization, but fear spreads even faster.
Yeah, if the GPS starts screaming that the car is driving off a cliff, everyone in the vehicle is going to panic. I can think of times when a boss sent like a cryptic late-night email saying, we need to talk about the budget tomorrow, and the entire department spent the next 12 hours catastrophizing.
Oh, we've all been there. That is emotional contagion in action. The source emphasizes that the most effective leaders stay calm and acknowledge the brutal reality of the situation without creating unnecessary panic.
I don't lie about it.
No, they do not sugarcoat the crisis. If revenue is down 20%, they state it clearly. But their grounded, steady presence neutralizes the terror. The text makes a brilliant point here.
What's that?
Years from now, employees will rarely remember the exact text of a company-wide email sent during a crisis. They won't remember the specific percentage points discussed in the town hall meeting, but they will unequivocally remember how your leadership made them feel during that period of terrifying uncertainty.
Wow. It really paints that concept of belief, not as some soft, fluffy poster you buy online, but as a rigorous, exhausting daily practice of managing fear.
Yes.
You are managing your own fear, and you are acting as a shock absorber for your team's fear.
It is the hardest, most demanding work a leader can possibly undertake. It requires immense emotional regulation.
And that reality, that coaching people and managing their emotional experience is the true core of leadership. It fundamentally redefines the future of work. We have to talk about this, especially right now, as artificial intelligence enters the chat and is just actively reshaping almost every single industry overnight.
Yeah, this specific point in the Stella Pop analysis might be the most crucial takeaway for any professional listening who is trying to ensure they aren't replaced by an algorithm in the next 5 years.
Because everyone is worried about that. And the piece addresses the AI elephant in the room head on. The stark reality presented in the sources is that AI is never going to replace a leader who operates as a coach.
Never.
Yes, AI is an incredibly powerful tool. It can transcribe and summarize your hour-long meetings in seconds. It can generate your weekly performance reports. It can analyze the sentiment of 10,000 customer reviews instantly, forecast demand, write the first drafts of your marketing copy.
It can essentially execute all the tasks that a traditional manager spends 80% of their week doing.
Exactly. It completely automates the supervision and tracking of work.
But the source provides an exact list of what artificial intelligence cannot do.
Right.
It cannot look an employee in the eye and make them genuinely feel believed in. It cannot build psychological trust.
No algorithm for that.
None. It cannot read the unspoken tension between two coworkers in a room and navigate a resolution. And it absolutely cannot create a sense of human belonging.
So true.
As technology becomes exponentially more capable of handling the quantifiable math of the business, these distinctly human emotional leadership qualities, they don't become obsolete. In fact, their value skyrockets. They become the only remaining competitive advantage.
So what does this all mean? To me, it feels like if AI is taking over the role of the traditional manager, the tracking, the scheduling, the reporting, that reality essentially forces human leaders to step up and finally become coaches.
It forces the issue.
You can't just hide behind a spreadsheet in your office anymore and call it leadership. The AI can build and analyze the spreadsheet infinitely better and faster than you can anyway.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it validates the entire structural philosophy that Stella Pop uses when analyzing and building modern organizations. They operate on the premise that businesses run on 3 interconnected pillars.
Okay, let's hear them.
You have operations, you have brand, and you have people.
Let's break down how those 3 actually interact in the real world.
Sure. Operations represents your internal systems. It creates consistency and efficiency in what you deliver.
The gears of the machine.
Right. Brand represents your external marketing and messaging. It creates expectations and desire in the marketplace.
Bringing people in.
Exactly. Yeah. But the third pillar, people, is the execution layer. It is the culture that determines whether the other 2 pillars actually function or completely collapse.
Let's apply that to a real-world scenario so we can really see it. Imagine a sauce company. They have the most brilliant operational software, no bugs, perfect uptime.
Great operations.
Right, and they have a genius marketing campaign that is driving thousands of signups.
Great brand.
Exactly. But their internal culture is incredibly toxic. Leadership leads by fear, and employees are terrified to report small issues.
What happens next is totally predictable. Because the culture is toxic, customer service reps are burnt out and rude to clients. Engineers hide software flaws instead of fixing them.
Oh, yeah.
So the brilliant marketing brings people in, the operations try to serve them, but the broken culture results in massive customer churn. The strongest organizations realize these 3 pillars are not isolated departments. They reinforce each other in what Stella Pop refers to as a continuous growth loop or a flywheel.
The culture dictates how the work is executed on a Tuesday afternoon.
Exactly.
That daily execution shapes what the end customer actually experiences. And that positive or negative customer experience is what ultimately builds or destroys the public brand. The flywheel keeps turning, fueled by the people.
Which leads to the ultimate paradigm shift regarding how leadership must view success. The source states it very clearly. Winning is the result, not the mission.
Which is incredibly hard for competitive, traditional business leaders to swallow. I mean, corporate structures are entirely obsessed with hitting quarterly numbers.
They are. It requires immense discipline to shift that focus. If you obsess exclusively over the financial performance, you are effectively just staring at the scoreboard while ignoring what is happening on the playing field.
You're not watching the game.
Right. When a leader focuses their primary energy on building a healthier, more resilient team, it ironically produces much better long-term quantifiable results.
The source actually lists the tangible ROI of this approach. A healthy company culture creates significantly better customer experiences.
Absolutely.
It leads to higher employee retention, which eliminates the massive financial drain of constantly recruiting and onboarding new staff.
Turnover is so expensive.
Unbelievably expensive. And it fosters faster innovation because people aren't afraid to fail. and it generates more resilient growth during economic downturns.
The financial performance isn't the fundamental purpose of the organization. It is the natural, inevitable outcome of a healthy, well-coached organization. Winning isn't the culture itself. Winning is simply the byproduct that great cultures produce.
It all comes back to realizing that the tidy whiteboard equation is a complete myth. You can build the most intricate operational systems, you can measure every conceivable metric of performance, you can adopt the most cutting-edge artificial intelligence, and you can track the numbers obsessively.
But it's not enough.
No, because at the end of the day, every single cell in that spreadsheet represents a human being. A human being who is just trying to do meaningful work, feel valued, and understand their place in the organization. The evidence in the source material clearly shows that when those people feel trusted, when they are appropriately challenged by a coach rather than directed by a manager, and when they feel genuinely supported by their environment, they don't just meet the baseline math, they vastly outperform the equation.
They absolutely do. But achieving that requires leaders to fundamentally shift how they operate and communicate.
As we wrap up this custom deep dive, we want to leave you with a thought to chew on that builds on everything we've just discussed.
Yeah, if culture isn't a handbook, but rather what your team experiences every Monday morning, take a hard look at your own team's Monday mornings.
What does that environment actually feel like right now?
Exactly. And what is one small question you could ask them next week as a coach, rather than a directive you'd give as a manager?
That is a brilliant challenge. Think about who you are currently grooming for leadership in your own ranks, too. Are you promoting the person who builds the best spreadsheet or the person who builds the strongest people? Thank you for bringing these fantastic notes to the table today. We highly encourage you to keep digging into the dynamics of your own workplace and look closely at the environment you are creating. Because at the end of the day, no matter how much we want business to be a simple, predictable math problem on a whiteboard, it is always fundamentally just about people. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and we'll catch you on the next deep dive.